The individuals I admire most are those who made a significant contribution either by what they thought or wrote or did of saving what is best of the earth, its wild things, its wild places, keeping it a home, not just for human beings, for the animals and the creatures and the birds that share this planet with us. That's the ultimate legacy, and everybody is going to be judged in the end, I believe, by what they believed and what they did to keep their promise to future generations. The St. John's I knew as a child, and then as a teenager on into the Depression, was a community where you're 60 miles from a railroad. You're essentially self-supporting. Every family had a cow. When I became 10 years of age, I succeeded my older sister, and my job was to milk the cow. Essentially, except for flour and maybe a sack of beans and a little sugar, a sack of sugar, your meals, which were home cooked, was in part derived from the earth, from the garden. I've been asked 100 times or more than that by people, how did you get interested in conservation? I say, I grew up with it. That was part of my life.
Beside the land, the other great love of Stewart Udall's life was his wife, Lee. After his service as a Mormon missionary and during World War II, they had met as students at the University of Arizona in Tucson and married.
We just came together. We had a courtship that lasted just 3 or 4 months, and then we decided to get married. We knew that we were made for each other, as they used to say. I would not have had the kind of life I had except for her influence. And the reason our children turned out so beautifully was the devotion that she gave to them. So she was both a great mother and a person that made a mark in helping the country understand the arts, and I owe her a lot to this day.
Stewart Udall had been a Democratic congressman from Arizona for 6 years when he was named by newly elected President John Kennedy to be our nation's Secretary of the Interior. When Lyndon Johnson became president after the assassination of John Kennedy, he kept Stewart Udall as Interior Secretary. This son and champion of the West served in that post for a total of 8 years. Udall was pleased that we Americans now can enjoy more than 100 million acres designated as wilderness areas. He was especially attached to Canyonlands National Park, having once flown over the area with a man who actually proposed building a dam there.
We flew by the area, and I didn't say anything to him, but he says, that's where the next dam should be. And I'm looking off at the Canyonlands in Utah. And I didn't say anything to him. I just said to myself, if that isn't a national park, I've never seen one. When I went back to Washington, I had the park director send a team out, and they came in with a plan for a 1-million-acre park. I think in some ways it has as much appeal or more appeal than the Grand Canyon itself because of its diversity.
The establishment of Canyonlands National Park was only one of a series of actions by Udall to preserve land which otherwise might well have been developed.
When we needed national seashores, new national parks, wildlife refuges, the things we did in the 1960s, that we were providing an opportunity for people to have access to go into wild country and to go into these beautiful places and have the experience, have the spiritual experience of enjoying a beautiful place. The one policy, new policy that I would take a lot of credit for is the National Wild and Scenic Rivers. You probably wouldn't be able to pass that bill today because a lot of people think that we need little hydro dams and so on. We need to develop the potential of rivers for electricity. We had built all the big dams, and it was time to have a policy where we left rivers flowing naturally because of the values that they had, not just for fishermen, but for all kinds of outdoor enthusiasts and so on.
Stewart Udall was, in his own way, a man of action. Some of those actions went beyond his stewardship of our national lands.
I told the Washington Redskins they were the only white team left. This is 1961. And I told them, because my lawyers told me that I was the landlord of Kennedy Stadium, and that if I said they had to integrate, and if they didn't, they wouldn't use the stadium, that I had the power to do that, and I did it. I'm saying, in effect, to my grandchildren, your lives are going to slowly change, and that can be done gracefully if all of you take part and cooperate, and it can be healthier. And maybe if we slow down, if we slow population growth, the way Western Europe has done, already done, that we will find that we have a society that is more frugal, more thrifty, and more friendly.
Several years ago, Stewart Udall wrote a special letter to his grandchildren. It ends this way: "Whether you are a person of faith who believes that the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, whether you are an individual who has had mystical experiences that link you to the network of eternity, or whether you are a fervent conservationist who wants to leave a legacy for your progeny, the earth needs your devotion and tender care. Go well, do well, my children. Support all endeavors that promise a better life for the inhabitants of our planet. Cherish sunsets, wild creatures, and wild places. Have a love affair with the wonder and beauty of the earth.